The shift needs to happen in your mind if it's ever going to happen in your wallet. Yeah. And that's not just hearsay, that's a fact. Yeah. If we shift our perspective and shift the way or the lens that we see our life through, it will start to reflect, in the way how we shop personally.
Hi there, Adrian here, and this is a video from a Zoom session that we do. We do these Zoom sessions every Sunday and we take questions and answers from the audience. Some of our students, some of our members. We never know what questions are coming up, so I'm always excited to do these sessions and I hope to see you at one of them. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below and check out the other playlists that we have. Thank you, enjoy. Today we're talking about this subject, money mindset, wealth mindset, or whatever. And the key is not for me to sell you any financial products or tell you what's right or wrong. It's to have you going inside and figuring that out for yourself. Has anyone here read those books, Robert Kiyosaki or Napoleon Hill or How to Make Money? Yeah, those books exist and there's tons of them out there and some of them actually work. But the problem is implementation. But they do actually work, just like super memory power. So some of these books can teach you that there's limitations to it, and I'll share with you some of that. So I was very lucky to find some of those books when I was young. I bought the share market. I joined the army, and you would never guess. I like to say I joined the army to do my country and family proud, but I also realized that in the army, I would get paid a real salary. And I would use that real salary to buy houses. And a year after joining the army, I bought my first properties. And it was a good time in the market. In fact, it was the best time in the market in my town. But I knew it was the best time because I read the books. I read all these books from property investors. Yeah. I obviously stopped reading super memory power. I started reading these money books, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. How to Make Money Made Simple. I was reading these books and that's why I bought shares. But I thought shares was the way to go, but I realized, hang on, I've got to buy some property. So a couple of years later, I joined the army, I saved all my money, I bought my first properties. I like to have a guess. How many properties do you think I looked at before I bought my first one? Throw a number in the chat box. And now, if you've bought a property, perhaps you can write in there how many properties you looked at before you bought your first property. How many properties do you think most people look at? It looks like 3, 10, 20. 5. I looked at close to 100 properties. And not just that, when I found this property, I got on it and I signed the dotted line like there and then. I knew it was the right one because I looked at so many properties. I wasn't nervous. I mean, I naturally had a bit of nerves. But I wasn't nervous because I looked at 100 properties. Every weekend I went out looking at properties. I took out a checklist. I actually had like a checklist, tick, 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 things to look at. All stuff I learned from the books and the rich dads. So I looked at 100 properties, and when I saw my first property, I actually bought that and the next door one. I bought 2 little units at the same time because I knew after looking at 100, they were special. They were really good. And the whole property market was on the way up. If the property market wasn't on the way up, maybe I would have kept buying shares. It was not luck. I have been lucky before, but it wasn't luck. It was so obvious. The property market was grossly undervalued. It hadn't gone up in a long time. There were booms in the other cities. It was just a matter of time. It was so obvious. I tried to coach my friends. I told my friends, please buy property. Please, it's so easy. Just buy a property, buy anything. One of my best mates, one of my best mates, he went down to Melbourne to visit his family. He went to another city to visit his family. He left me his car. You see, I didn't have a car. I had a bicycle. I would ride around town on a bicycle. All my friends drove cars. I would bum lifts. I would hitch a ride. I'd get the bus. I'd borrow the girlfriends. So my friend went away and I borrowed his car. While driving his car around, it blew up. The engine, pop. Took it to my mate's dad, who's a mechanic, and the car was a write-off, and my mate had to buy a new car. Instead of spending, $5,000-$10,000 on a replacement car, he bought an expensive car. He bought a really nice black SS Commodore, and he had a bank loan for it, and he wasn't able to buy a property anymore. I was pissed. A month or two later, he was giving me a ride somewhere. So I'm sitting in the passenger seat of his nice car, and I got a phone call from the bank. The bank had looked at my properties, and my properties had doubled in value. They actually doubled in value. And despite being happy, like, oh my God, that's like, my money has gone from, this little bit to now this. And I've only been in the army like a year and a half now, 2 years, holy shit. But I was pissed because my mate missed out. Not just my mate, everyone else at work, they thought I was weird. On the weekends, I would go check out properties with my checklist. On the weekends, I would go, look at property. Even when I had my first properties, I would still look. While we went away, I would read these books, and sometimes I'd have a couple of beers, but they thought I was a bit weird because I was spending so much time, reading the newspaper. I was researching. But in that first 1 or 2 years, I made a pile of money, and I tried to coach my friends into it, and I failed miserably. Hence the word tried. I tried to coach others. That's why I do this. Now, that friend of mine is still one of my close inner circle friends. And, he's in the normal daily grind. He can't leave the army. He's paying his family. And I think it sucks because if his car didn't blow up, or if he would have bought a house instead of a car, it would have been so much easier. And for those in the West, countries like Australia, England, America, once you buy a house, it's easy to buy a car, easy. But if you buy a car first, it's hard to buy a house. That's real simple stuff that's in the books. The books will also tell you when most people get like $1,000 bonus, they will go buy a bigger TV. Have you guys seen that before? People get like $1,000 bonus, and the next thing you know, they got a big TV, a new iPhone or something, yeah? Most people do that, including my friends. So every time I get $1,000 bonus, it doesn't make a difference. It just goes into the property loans. Anyway, not skyding here, but I'm sharing with you the background so you know where I come from. I come from a place of love because I think we all work too much. We should all be able to take, 3-day weekends. We shouldn't be working 5 days a week. Well, we shouldn't even be working 4 unless you love your job. So 2008, I had enough. I wasn't like millionaire or anything, but, I had more than enough money. And more than that, I had the freedom. I had the freedom that I desired. I had the freedom to go travel the world. And I went and traveled around the world. I learned NLP and how to coach and stuff, and did some NLP and ICF training. In 2014, that's when I say I went pro. That's when I went and did an NLP master practitioner. I was living in Shanghai. I flew over to Beijing and did master prac. If you don't know, one of the reasons why Tony Robbins is so successful is he has a partner, a financial partner. He was doing these events in his lounge room, and they got a bit bigger, but he was broke. And even after he had a couple of them going on, a couple of these events, the first ones, he was still broke and in debt. And he ended up partnering with someone, and his partner took care of all the business, and he is still with that partner today. So he has a partner that takes care of the business side of the house. For those that have done speculative investments, if you've done the crypto or whatever, take a screenshot of this and have a deeper think about this later on. it's very valuable to go back inside your mind and reflect on what you learned. One of my trainers used to record himself, get the phone, and he would record himself doing martial arts. And through watching his phone, and this is long before selfies became popular, by watching himself, he was able to critique his technique. Anyone that's a share trader, a really good thing to do when you're trading shares is to have a logbook, and you record your thoughts and you record the mental processes you do. So if you're buying stock, before you buy stock, you write down, why you're buying it, what your thoughts are, what your hesitations are. And then later on, you can reflect back and you can take away some of the patterns of success. So if you're doing that kind of stuff or you want to do it, consider what's in this screenshot. Okay, now we get all these kind of sayings like it's time in the market, not timing the market. But I got news for you. That's a load of bullshit. If you bought Bitcoin at the top in 2020, whenever it was, and you keep it for another 10, 20 years, there's no way of knowing if you're actually going to come out on top. With the property market cycles, yeah, time in the market, but look, if you buy at the peak and you end up in a position where you have to sell at the bottom, you're fucked. If you buy any kind of investments at the peaks, at the top of the waves, it's going to take you a long time before you get back up. It's very, very important we don't buy at the top of the wave. But people have these sayings like, it's time in the market, just hodl. You guys know hodl? HODL means hold, but it's spelled backwards. It's a bit of a crypto internet phenomenon. Someone spelled hold backwards and it became popular. So HODL means I've effed up and I'm going to hold for a long time, hoping that at some point in future, it'll come back. People also say early bird gets the worm. Now, does this make sense to you guys? Second mouse gets the cheese. Okay, Dino, can you?
Well, the picture that I'm seeing in my head make sense because the first mouse would usually get killed by the trap.
And that totally contradicts early bird gets the worm. And people have these sayings like high risk, high return, or low risk, low return. Well, think about it. Low risk, low return, high risk, high return. Doesn't that mean the same thing? High risk, high return is what we call in NLP a complex equivalence. And the complex equivalence is that the higher the risk, the higher the return. Now, a lot of you drive cars. So if you're driving your car and you decide to increase the risk, get really drunk and not wear a seatbelt, is that going to give you a higher return? If you do that 10 times, is it going to give you a higher return? No. So there's this complex equivalence of high risk, high return. It's absolute bullshit. It's stupid. So why do people say these things? This is a self-concept. Your self-concept is your idea on who you are. From the neurological levels point of view, this is like the identity level. Your self-concept is who you think you are.
Yeah, I think this is a really important part of the self-concept, as there would always be obstacles, as you're navigating your identity, and there would be, whether it's people, environment that would challenge who you are. So having your self-concept, being able to self-correct when it's getting new input is very important. So for example, maybe when you're hanging out with short people, you feel like you're confident, you believe you're confident. And then you move to another country, and then most of the people in this country are now tall. And that can challenge yourself, your confidence in a way where when you're standing around these tall people, you're like, oh, am I really confident? But as a result of you being able to self-correct and realize your confidence didn't really come from your height, it came from other experience where you have been confident. It's easy for you to auto-correct that part of your identity.
part of self-confidence is knowing what you can and can't do, which falls into the area of accuracy. These guys were all well aware, but over time, they got better and better at understanding themselves, understanding what they were capable of, understanding how to motivate themselves, right? Because you got to keep up that motivation. It takes a long time to do a property development. It might take a long time to fulfill a coaching engagement. A key thing for some people, if you've found that your awareness or your consciousness is rising a lot, if you find yourself waking up a lot in your dreams, if you find yourself becoming more and more aware of your value systems, what's important here, how do I want to handle this situation, that's great. And that means you have a higher level of consciousness about your self-concept. So up in the top right there, it actually says unconscious. So sometimes you might find yourself too conscious, what do I value here, in your judgments and stuff, and that's okay. But we want to start to move more into the unconscious where we don't think, oh, I have to be disciplined. I'll put on my disciplined state. Yeah, it just happens. It just happens. It just happens. It just happens, right? But that takes a bit of time and development. Now, those guys and myself and most people in this room, we're constantly developing ourselves. And at times you might be more conscious, but we are constantly moving step by step by step by step towards more unconscious and automatic excellence. And unconscious and automatic excellence is the best type by far. And then the last comment down there on the bottom right is free of self-importance. These guys are not arrogant. They're not egoistic. And I don't think any of us here are. And it's important we factor that in because a lot of people have the belief wealthy equals arrogant asshole. Not true. There are plenty of poor assholes as well. Yeah. And there's plenty in the middle. So being wealthy or poor doesn't make you arrogant. Being arrogant makes you arrogant.
Boom! You made it here! Good on you. Make sure you click the subscribe button below and check out the playlist at the end. If you'd like to come along to our Sunday sessions where we host a live free Q&A for our students and members, you're welcome. I'll see you there.